again, it was all hands on deck. We had to get up to speed very quickly. And so the majority of the staff were all struggling with what we all went through with COVID. Not being able to see family, illnesses, deaths, we were all struggling.
I am Barbara Dawson with Purple Mountain. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Leann Heron.
So thank you everyone for having me. I am honored to be here. As Barbara said, I am Leann Heron. I am a full-time certified health and life coach and the owner of Finding Resilience with Leann. And I am also the creator and host of the Happiness on Tap podcast. So my background is I worked for 20 years in accounting and 13 years in the legal field. So that is what's led me here, was what happened in the legal field when COVID hit. So I was working in office and our firm really didn't support the let your employees work from home. We were required to show up every day like nothing was happening in the world around us. They had just accepted a very large group of cases that were full-blown litigation. So anybody who's familiar with litigation. And so again, it was all hands on deck. We had to get up to speed very quickly. And so the majority of the staff were all struggling with what we all went through with COVID. Not being able to see family, illnesses, deaths, we were all struggling. And really quickly, we had to get up to speed on all of these cases as fast as we could. And so as a paralegal, you know, the first place we start is by reading the original complaint and see what's going on with the case. And the very first case that I picked up, I realized very quickly was going to be a personal trauma trigger for me. Obviously can't disclose any details, but it was very much a trauma trigger. So I discussed with my supervising attorney that I knew it was going to be a trauma trigger and requested an accommodation. That accommodation was denied. Again, all hands on deck, you got to just do it. I spent 7 months hearing, it's just emotion. It's just a hearing. And my boss even went to the extent of handing me a bottle of melatonin so I could sleep at night. Eventually, I ended up resigning my position and chose at that time to never return to the legal field. So that took me to a journey of self-care that I never knew existed. Nobody had ever told me about things like giving from a full cup. And so I had to learn. I had to figure out, how do I overcome the challenges that I was facing? Brain fog, memory loss, anxiety, depression, overwhelm. I had never experienced those things, and I didn't know how our bodies hang on to trauma. So I threw myself into figuring it out, researching, going into therapy, working with alternative medicine providers. And over time, I started improving, whether it was being out of the stress or just getting myself out of a stress response. But after a while, I had to figure out what I was going to do next. If I'm not going to return to the legal field, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And I was still facing a lot of fear, thanks to COVID, fear of what was going on in the world. Everybody was still masked up. So I had to, do some really deep inner thoughts and figure out what I wanted to do. And that's when I stumbled across the ability to get certified to be a health and life coach through virtual education. And I knew that this was something that I wanted to do to help people who are experiencing some of these same things get from where they want to be or from where they are to where they want to be in the shortest amount of time. So most of us know that path. Who would like to know what the number one lesson I learned along the way was? You, great answer. There we go. So the number one lesson that I learned was that I had to go through my life experiences to get to where I am now, to be the woman I am now and the coach I am now. So I had to go through being cheated on to understand coaching on intimacy and relationships. I had to go through divorces, again, to learn how to coach on and to be able to coach on life, health, intimacy and relationships, money, career. It's all encompassing in what we go through in life and our transitions. I had to go through being accused of being a bad mother, to being abused as a child, to surviving trauma. But that is what got me to where I am, working with the people that I want to work with. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened. There we go. So I battled through life and health challenges. I weathered the storms of intimacy and relationship trials. I soared to new heights in my career and my business. I transformed my relationship with money. And I deepened my spirituality. So these are things that I want to do to help the people that I coach. So I coach one-on-one, either virtually or in person. I do have a brick and mortar office. I work with women who want to transform their transitions in life and turn them into triumphs so that they can walk gracefully through the next phase of their life. So my challenge is, and I'm so glad to be here and I'm looking for help from anyone, is that through my coaching, they only taught us how to coach on 90-day programs. So there was a 90-day program and a 90-day script for all of the big 5 areas of life. That's also how they taught us to price our coaching. But I live in the real world, and I know that not everyone can afford a 90-day program, wants a 90-day program, or needs a 90-day program. So I offered different options, but I wasn't clear in my offers. So I offered 4-session programs, 6-session programs, 90-day programs, but I wasn't specific enough to say 4 weekly sessions. So I left that door open for my clients to not be consistent. And that was my failure. That was something that I struggled with, that I had to work on. And thank you, Barbara, for pointing that out. So I have spent some time working on rewriting my offers and rewriting my client agreement. But so my ask is, I know there's a lot of other coaches in the group and just other businesses. I need some guidance on how to stay consistent myself so that I can have consistent clients. Thank you.
Now the fun begins. So please come up, form a line over here, and as you do, as you come up, grab the mic, hold it like this. Don't hold it down here, we can't hear you. Hold it up to your mouth and state your name, your business, and ask your questions of Leann.
Thank you again, Barbara.
Sure.
You weren't here last week, were you?
Not last week.
You should watch.
I did. I watched yours.
Good. I think I can help. I'm Miriam Ortiz-Aquino with More Than Organized. It's exactly what I do, is help people price and package their services, especially coaches and solopreneurs. So I think there's definitely some stuff we can do. But have you thought about who your ideal client is in the first place? Because you use the phrase uncommitted client at the top. So maybe those aren't the right clients for you. Have you thought about that?
I have, thank you to my coach, Barbara. I have been very all over the place with trying to figure this whole thing out. Like I said, I had very limited education to teach me how to do it. So when I first started coaching, I was coaching everyone on everything. I recently found out that I don't want to do couples coaching. And I really don't have a same level of connection coaching men. There are men who coach men, so great. For me, I want to stay very focused on coaching women. So that is my one focus. But please help.
So my other thought was, because you have this background in legal and you went through the divorce and that whole trauma situation, if you could reconnect with some legal people, divorce attorneys or mediators or that kind of thing to refer to you, just the women.
Great suggestion. And I actually do have clients who are in the legal field. But I haven't thought about approaching either HR or office managers to try to bridge that. Because honestly, I was trying to avoid that. But
Well, it occurs to me as well that you went through the trauma of working for that law firm, and other women in law might also have similar experiences. And so you may want to check with the Bar Association or the Women's Association and just see if there's opportunities to speak or share in that way.
thank you so much. Great suggestions. Go, Brett.
Good morning, Leann. My name is Brooke. I own Death Doula Professionals. I have, thank you for adjusting. My first suggestion for getting people to show up consistently is setting up with them a specific time on, looking at your calendar and scheduling those 4 weeks out. And then also putting a clause in for cancellation. So 24-hour notice, you don't get any of your money back. So you're not out that coaching session. And then I was wondering if you talk a little bit about your podcast.
Thank you, Brooke, for opening that up. And yes, I have gone back through my offers to make them consistent. Like I said, 4 weekly sessions, because I left that door wide open myself. Same with my client agreement. So I went in and specified weekly sessions. There is a cancellation clause. It's just hard when you lead with your heart. You want to lead with your heart. You want to be understanding of people's situations in life, but at the same time, it has definitely impacted my business. So real quick, a little about my podcast. So again, my podcast is called Happiness on Tap. And I have 2 groups of people that I like to interview. I love to interview other entrepreneurs and small business owners so that I can spotlight their business and get what they do out to the world. I also love to work with people in the health and wellness field, because those are the people that helped me get out of the darkness and back to my light. So I am always looking for podcast guests. So if you're interested, please come and see me. Thank you, Brooke.
Hey there. I just wanted to share, great job. Loved your story. Oh, I'm sorry. Loved your story.
Right to your mouth. Right to the mouth.
Should I swallow it? Anyway, I really loved the fact that you shared your story and you shared not only what you went through and how that was impacting you and how you made a decision or a choice to move forward and make some changes. And by the way, I was a litigation consultant for 17 years, dealing with attorneys. So I understand the impact of discovery and going all the way to trial with those cases and dealing with the stress, right? Because everything's based on deadline.
That's it.
And I could imagine also some of those cases are traumatic, you know, and I know for me personally, I saw some pretty intense stuff. So I definitely get that. And I guess what I would share with you on getting clients and building those things is there's got to be something else. And I'm going through this phase too. Okay. So I'm there with you. Is creating a draw. So there's got to be something that draws them. I think you got the right idea with the podcast. So that's great. Give you an example of what I'm doing. So I'm also a business consultant. So part of my draw is I'm really into artificial intelligence, and I use generative AI for my business. Okay. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm doing lectures on business development, starting businesses, and how to use AI throughout that process, right? So for me, that's my draw. And give you an example, I'm doing a lecture for probably about 40 people on Thursday up in Taos. Okay, so that's my draw. And my offer to them is I'm going to mentor them. Okay, so one of the ways that I start businesses, or I've started businesses in the past, is I typically will, and if you notice even online how they do it, they'll give you so much value, right, that it creates a big following, right? And then all of a sudden, then they switch on the monetization, right? So sometimes we have to go through the process of giving a lot of value, right? Creating a greater following, right? And then switching on the monetization. And obviously through the process, and so I'm a life coach too. So one of the things that I focus on is getting myself every single day and making sure that I'm the best that I can be in the areas of my pillars, which is mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, relational, and leadership. So that's what I would share with you.
Thank you so much. All wonderful suggestions, some of which are things that I have been working on over the last, I'm starting my third year now. I have not only built this podcast, but I have built my following through social media. I have a very strong subscription base for my email marketing. I do blogs. I used to do one a month. Now I'm doing like one every 3-4 days. So I'm putting that value out there. I did find that over time that social media really wasn't working for me. I've been doing it pretty heavy for 2 years, but that's a lot of work. And so I did pivot away from social media to focus on what I own: my website, my email list, my podcast, my blog, and helping the people who want to be there for the value I'm giving them, not just followers on social media who are just scrolling and maybe we'll see one post out of 10. So I've been working on it and it's made the difference. After I pivoted away from social media, the skies parted. The clients started coming. So, you know, it's a lot to learn and figure out, but if you can find that path, it's great to find it. Thank you. I love the suggestions. Absolutely perfect.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Vince and I own a digital marketing agency. So we work with a lot of people who are trying to figure out, well, how do I use the internet to leverage my messaging? And I loved your story. You're actually going through a nice arc, right? You're going through my mess is my message. You know, you did that whole thing. And then you talked a little bit about the transformation that you went through, which was you had your mess, you had a lot of points on that, the problem. Then you went through, here's how I converted that. So when you say that you have a problem kind of figuring out who your ideal client is, right? Like, how do you hone in on that a little bit better? You already understand that your mess is the message type of thing. So what is the specific transformation that you're trying to help them through? Now that, if you hone in a little bit more on that, it could help you figure out, well, who are those people? Are they women in the legal field? I thought that was a good advice by the person. You know, they would identify with you more. Maybe that's not, maybe the legal field isn't the trauma. It was just a triggering event. So maybe women in the legal field wouldn't really resonate unless they had that problem that you provide a solution for or can help them navigate through. So there's a script that was, some other internet marketer came up, but it was like, if you can come up with a paragraph that kind of says, I help blank my ideal client. So maybe you want to work with only women who have this specific problem, to blank the transformation that you're looking for to get over past trauma so they can move forward in the professional and personal life, whatever that is. And then the how, and I do that through one-on-one coaching, utilizing particular frameworks that I've learned, whatever. But if you start working on that paragraph, it's a hard process. I know, because I have to do it all the time myself. But if you do that, then it kind of starts, well, who is that person? What's a woman who might have been divorced or has life experience enough that she's had accumulated traumas that I help her navigate and transform through these particular processes. And so when you say, hey, I don't, when I stepped away from social media, it was a big relief. It's because digital marketing is a tool to accelerate a message. So if you're kind of muddled with it, it sometimes doesn't feel good. And then the clientele doesn't really resonate with it also. So just a little bit of alignment on that, but you have a lot of the key components. So I was just saying, if you think about what is that transformation, or what is that transformation?
Again, thank you so much. And that was something that Barbara really helped me kind of fine tune and focus on, was writing that position statement, as she called it.